All right, good afternoon, everybody. So we're very excited to have you here today. Hey, Sub, don't you think that our guest here today needs more energy?
That's right. So, well, what can we do to spice things up?
How about let's do a cheer?
That sounds good.
All right, everybody. I am going to say hard, and I need you to scream at the top of your voice, where, as in W-A-R-T. Are you ready? Hard!
Where?
Well, it seems like the food coma is kicking in. One more time. Hard!
Where?
All right, good afternoon, everybody. I, Valerie, and Sabarish will be your hosts for today. We are from the advanced manufacturing team, and we work together with partners and stakeholders to develop the advanced manufacturing ecosystem in Singapore.
Thank you for attending the 6th edition of the Hardware Roundtable. The Hardware Roundtable is a networking and pitching session for manufacturing and engineering startups in Singapore. We would like to thank NUS and InnovFest for providing the space and venue for today's event.
So today, we've got an exciting lineup of events for you, from the sharing of the new NUS programs to tips and tricks from our industry veterans and mentors on how to build a hardware startups, to, of course, a startup pitching session. The program lineup can be seen on the screen.
But before we dive into the program, we would like to invite Edwin, Enterprise Singapore's Executive Director for Manufacturing and Engineering, to give the opening address. Edwin, please.
Just something I can turn to, somebody I can.
Thanks, Sab. Well, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for spending your afternoon with us here at this event. As you can tell, I'm losing my voice. It's almost gone now. From the introduction of my colleagues, you probably guessed why I've been practicing the screaming earlier on. But anyway, thank you very much again for attending, and thank you to shout out to NUS, both NUS Enterprise and NUS ILO for co-organizing this with us and for inviting us to have this event here at InnovFest. I thought I should also introduce a little bit Enterprise Singapore. I know most of you probably know what we do and what we are, but just in case there are some who are joining us for the first time, Enterprise Singapore is a new statutory board. We are 2 months and 3 days old as of today, formed by the merger of Spring Singapore and IE Singapore, 2 other statutory boards. So previously, Spring, we worked to help the local startups and SMEs develop capabilities here domestically, while IE Singapore would help the same group of companies expand overseas and internationalize. So with the merger, we will be now one agency doing the same thing, still there to help Singapore-based SME startups and now large companies as well, grow here, expand overseas to create value for Singapore. And we also allow all of us to leverage off each other's strengths and networks to better serve the community, at least in the startup community here today. Why hardware startups? Or specifically, why this event called the Hardware Startups Roundtable? Now, as many of you know, Singapore's startup scene, the startup world has exploded, fair to say, over the past, say, 10, 12 years. When Spring first looked at this seriously in the early 2000s, probably about 1,000 startups, tech startups in Singapore. You can count the number of accelerators and active investors, maybe 2 hands, 2 feet. You fast forward 13 years, the latest numbers we have, close to 5,000 tech startups, 70 government-supported incubators, probably at least twice as much that are running informally. And your investors and valuation of the deal has also gone up significantly. So the startup world is burgeoning. But one statistic that stood out for some of us, nearly 75% of these startups are all in the software infocom space. Nothing wrong with that. We love them, we want them to succeed, and we will make them succeed. But we also think, given our tradition, rich tradition in manufacturing, at one point in time, manufacturing companies accounted for 1/3 of our GDP. Even today, it's still 20% of our GDP, and if you have picked up from today's news, it registered its 21st straight month of expansion, the manufacturing sector. And we think by bringing these two worlds together, magic can happen. The startups that we deal with, the hardware startups, their needs are very different from software. They take a longer time to bring their product to market. Their go-to-market strategies have to be different from your software startups. And who better to help them than the experts, the manufacturing companies that are here in Singapore, and some of them are here in the audience today. So that was the genesis of this platform, this event. We organized the first roundtable, literally in a roundtable in Spring's office back in 2016. 15 people showed up, people committed to the partners. Some of them are here in the audience today. I'd like to shout out to you and thank you for that. And we've since had several editions. The last one was held in February this year, and with a focus on focus on internationalizing, specifically in consumer electronics. We had a few people talk about tips on how to maximize the value of big trade shows like CES, and we also had a few startups pitch for help, for ideas, and for money. And my colleagues tell me that most of them have found some partners after the networking session. One of them I know for a fact is in advanced due diligence on a pretty sizable check, and I hope that will close soon. And the idea today, I think, is for all you guys to connect, to meet, to find solutions for problems that you have, to find good companies to invest in, to help out, and basically just to get to know each other. We're also very honored that two of our partners in the hardware startup space, NUS ILO as well as ST Engineering, because InnoSparks, have chosen to also officiate their collaboration at this event. And ESG Enterprise Singapore stands ready to support and hope that this collaboration takes off, and will make sure it takes off. It's ready to help accelerate Deeptech spin-outs from NUS graduate research and also NUS spin-offs. And I won't steal any more thunder from Professor Freddie Boy, who will tell us a lot more about it later. I think on that note, and before my voice completely runs out, I shall keep quiet now, and leaves me only to thank all of you once again, and wish you a productive rest of the afternoon ahead. Thank you.
Thank you, Edwin. So as Edwin has shared, building the advanced manufacturing ecosystem is a collaborative one. NUS has always been a close partner on this regard. In their most recent development, NUS has been putting together resources for the Deeptech ecosystem. Today, we would like to announce the inauguration of a new NUS ILO program in collaboration with InnoSpark.
The NUS Industry Liaison Office, also known as the ILO, is the technology translation and commercialization arm of NUS. Over the last 5 years, ILO has played a pivotal role in getting almost 600 patents granted and more than 60 technology-based companies being spun off from NUS. InnoSparks, an open lab set up in mid-2017 by ST Engineering, is the first of its kind engineering-based incubator in Singapore. As a dynamic, innovative platform and springboard to new and disruptive technologies, the Open Lab offers a pool of skilled engineers beyond just advanced equipment and labs to support the innovators in accelerating the development of their ideas to prototypes and products.
Today, NUS ILO and InnoSparks will be coming together to sign an MOU to develop a joint technology incubation and acceleration program targeted at supporting NUS graduate students and spin-offs. The new joint program brings together NUS talents, technologies, and startup teams with InnoSparks' deep engineering expertise and prototyping capabilities to enable participants to gain access to a deep pool of supporting engineers, funding, prototyping facilities, and business mentorship. The product development experience gained will enable these teams to grow faster in their entrepreneurial journey.
We would like to invite the signatories for both parties, Prof. Freddie Bowie, SVP Graduate Education and Research Translation from NUS, Mr. Russell Tom, President, New Enterprises and Ventures from ST Engineering, Ms. Irene Chong, Director from NUS Industry Liaison Office, and Mr. Garrett Tang, Head from InnoSparks, on stage for the signing ceremony.
We'll be right back.
Thank you. I think it's a good time for a photo now.
Yeah.
Thank you. Next up, we've invited 3 guest speakers from investment, accelerator, and corporate backgrounds to share their experiences as well as tips to succeed in hardware.
All right, so right now we would like to pass the mic to Prof. Bowe to ask him to share more about the new NUS program. Prof. Bowe, please.
Okay, that's my exercise for the day, running up and down. First, I want to thank Edwin from Enterprise Singapore. We know each other for quite a long time, actually, when we were both young and promising quite a few years ago. I'm still promising, not so young maybe. But it's interesting because when I first started and got to know Edwin, the ecosystem was quite different, isn't it? Those days, it was EDB that was running the MedTech. I was one of the first to be in the panel. Things have dramatically changed. And today, we are so happy that we have InnoSparks from ST Engineering, an industrial partner working with the university. I'll tell you that there are 4 things that are required, that's invariable, for startup ecosystem. I started my first startup company in 2004. I hope I can continue to start up quite a few more. But over the years, you need these 4 things. The first, of course, is that you need the idea. Where's the market? What is your idea? How to connect? The second is actually you need the innovator. The person, the point person who is going to move things. Not just research, but bring research into a product. Now here's something interesting. Every year, about 900 to 1,000 very well-trained postdocs, graduate students go through the university. This forms an incredible group of potential innovators to tap from. I'm a professor, so I can talk about professors. Professors are not the best people to come out and run companies, you know that, right? If you want big problem, ask professors to run the company. They're great researchers, but they can be inventors. But it's the postdoc and graduate students that make great innovators, potential CTO, and who knows, maybe CEO as well. So in these slides, I'm going to introduce in NUS a very interesting program that will totally involve all our graduate students, postdocs, research staff. We are going to set the pace very high. Until recently, both universities, I believe, NTU and NUS, have been coming up with about 13, 14 Deeptech startup companies per year. Last year, both Irene and Sean worked very hard, and NUS came out with more than 20 a year. What is my target for NUS moving ahead? Not 30, not 40, try 50. 50. Yes. So I've committed myself. I've committed them as well. They can't run away. Seriously, there is a way to do this. It has to do with these two other things that you need. The third is investment. We know that. You need the money to move it. I'm happy to say that you will hear more details, but NUS itself will be funding, seed funding all these companies that we're going to start up. So I have got strong support from the board as well as from the president and provost. We will invest about 2 tranches, 100,000 within the hopefully first 6 months, if not first 9 months. And we will invite investors to co-invest with us. Now the fourth is interesting. The fourth is not more, it's less. You need less time. I have done enough startup companies to know that you don't need more money. You just need to spend less time. Your burn rate will be the same, but you spend less. And so we're going to hothouse all these startup companies. InnoSpark will be a major partner with us to hothouse the whole thing to make a prototype faster than slower. We're going to do everything to move it faster. Timeline, 1 year. I know that this is really ambitious, but if you don't try, you don't know that it will succeed. And we are all innovators, right? We love to fail early to succeed fast. So we are setting the example. So I am making a clarion call. I need mentors by the dozens. I need CEOs by the dozens. I need entrepreneurs by the dozens to help ILO, to help NUS to move these 50 companies per year. I hope that amongst the audience, there will be some who will be interested. And please talk to Irene, Sean, or any of our ILO staff. They will point you to where you can be of help to us. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor. Next up in the program, we've invited 3 guest speakers from investment, accelerator, and corporate backgrounds to share their experiences as well as tips to succeed in hardware. Without further ado, let us put our hands together to introduce our first speaker, Chet Ping, partner from Green Meadows Accelerator. Chet Ping, please.
Freddie, before you walk, I thought I could do the shortcut and I don't have to exercise so much, but I had to walk more. Okay, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Chet Ping, and for those of you who have worked in HP, you will know me as Chong. So you can call me Chong or Chet Ping. Okay, so today I'm going to share with you not so much tips for success in a startup, because I'm not sure if we can give you tips. But all we're going to share with you is what kind of things you can do to help you to be successful, because we strongly believe success rests with the founders of the startup. Okay? How do I move the slides? Huh? Sorry, I'm like Edwin, I'm losing my voice too. How do I move my slides? Oh, here we go. Sorry. Okay, so firstly, let me introduce my partners. I think they better be standing so that you won't come to me only, you go to them too. Margaret, Chin Hong, and Wee Boon. So all of us have one common feature in us. We all have worked for HP. And secondly, is you can tell we are like Edwin's age or older, okay? We're really doing this, of course, you know, we invest with our own money, but we're really doing this because we strongly believe that in our days when we work in HP, we have learned a lot. HP taught us a lot, whether it's R&D, whether it's manufacturing, supply chain, marketing, sales, and all that. And we really want to use this platform to be able to teach the younger people, because we strongly believe that's the way to contribute it back to the society. Okay, so that's really our objective. So some of our co-investors, our other investment like funds and all that, sometimes get a bit upset with us because we look at things slightly different. Okay, so I'll go into exactly what is it that you can expect from us, given the fact that that's our mindset, right? Because we are more into trying to help startups. Okay. Sorry, Next. Okay. So we believe very strongly in being hands-on. And we believe very strongly in participating actively in the startup. But the caveat here is that it's dependent on the startup whether they would like us. Because not everybody likes interference. So that is what we believe in. And we believe we are anytime, anywhere, any place. We are available for the startups, anytime. Any one of us here, any one of my partners here will be available for the startups. And we have, over the years, because early on I showed we have 130 years combined experience. Because of that, we have a pretty wide business network, not just in Singapore. Like today, I brought 2 friends from China, okay, to kind of be part of this meeting. So we do have a big network to provide to the startup. And also we have industrial-based experience, both in terms of linking with the suppliers, but also in terms of a whole pool of expertise. We are known to provide our startups with people who are good in probably procurement, we'll find procurement people, marketing, we'll find marketing people, branding, we'll find branding people. That's what we do based on the needs of the startup. And it's very important in the hardware part of things because, you know, in order to scale, you need to build that foundation, that process in order to do the work right, okay? And because of that, we believe we have a very holistic perspective to things, in part because if you look earlier, 4 of us have different expertise, some in R&D, some in marketing, some in operations, so we kind of provide things from an end-to-end perspective of how you should run a business. So we are pretty meticulous. You know, if you come from an MNC, you tend to be very process-oriented and all that, and that's what we are. And so we start with sourcing deals. We are not short of deals. By the way, we saw close to 100 deals, but we only invested in 5. Sorry. We are not like the earlier team who wants to put 50 as KPI, okay? But we only invested in 5. And of course, it's all hardware, all right? And we work a lot with the IHLs. In fact, many of my partners, on our own time, we do go work with the various universities and all that. In fact, we are now trying to figure out how to work with A-Star too. And our investment process is very slow. Like I said earlier, we will spend time. If it takes 3 months to get something done or 6 months to get something done, we'll do it. We will slowly but surely make it happen, okay? And we try to sit through the whole company's lifetime. Well, we're very young in this thing because the oldest company we're invested in is probably no more than 5 years. So it's still a long time away, but you know, we are quite convinced that we're going to sit through, help them if they need us. It's only if they need us, because remember this, people change, and companies do change too. And as company changes in different stages, we recognize that our utility value reduces over time, okay? And also we help companies to grow. And I'll go into details exactly what I mean by all this. So we do have a process on how we first source deals, then how do we help the companies, and how do we bring them to the next stage. So the first part of it is around, you know, selection and validation. How do we select the companies, and how do we form the deal and get sense out of it. So typically what we do is the companies come to us, we look at them. And when we look at them, we basically establish whether whatever they have on hand, whatever products they have on hand, whether there's a broad-based application. We don't like one-trick pony. So we look at people who have create platforms. Today they may be focusing on the like the pet business, but tomorrow they can be in surveillance. We have a company that does spherical robots that can do that. Okay, and then we identify the user segmentation, understand it better. We look at the IP and trade secret. We strongly believe that the money we put into the company is very small by any count. So to the extent that the company doesn't have IP or trade secret and just focus on price war, we don't think you'll win. So we don't invest in those kind of companies. And earlier on I talked about the fact that we look at close to 100 companies. Some of the companies that come to us fall into that category where they can't differentiate, okay? And also we look at the minimum viable product. We look at whether, it's something that they can bring to the market fast enough. And the other thing we do is we validate the founding team. I think if you heard earlier, Anthony Chong talks about the value and all that. It's very hard in the first meeting to establish values, but definitely, we kind of try to assess, engage, whether that team has got the right value set to move the company forward to the next level. And we look at the skill sets. And more importantly, earlier on I talked about the fact that we are here to add value. To the extent we don't think we can add value and it's only about giving money, and I just said earlier that we think our money is very small, we actually don't invest. Because it's no point investing in something that we can't add value. So that's really what we do. And then once we figure out this company is something that we like to move it to the process of due diligence, we will get Enterprise Singapore to be part of it in our due diligence. We work very closely with Enterprise Singapore. And as a sidetrack to this, we talk about this hardware roundtable. Edwin talks about the fact that it started with 15 people, and I'm glad Green Meadows was part of the first few that's part of that roundtable. So that's the hardware roundtable. But even with the seed capital team, I keep using the word spring, it just doesn't get out of me. We work very closely with them. So we spend many weeks with them doing due diligence on the company. And we do have a deal scorecard. And I'm going to just kind of go through with you some of the key things that we look at to decide whether we should invest in a company or not. So I talked earlier about management. We call it management, but it's actually the team, the people in essence. And we look at their experience, we look at skill set, making sure that they have the right set of people in there. And history, more like the personality, the value system, whether they really want it and they're hungry enough to make things happen. And also teamwork. Okay, so this is a real story. We actually had looked at a company, we were ready to put the money in. The team looks perfect. Just about a week before we really signed and want to put money in, we found out the team has split. So we are thankful that we didn't put the money in. Because when we peel the onion on all the companies that did not succeed, a lot of it has got to do with the fact that the team don't work well together. So it's an extremely important thing. And I'm not talking about having differences in ideas. I'm talking about having differences in the value system, sharing the same aspiration, which is very important. Ideas is good. Having differences in ideas, you can make your product better, or that's all right, okay? So that's what we look for. And then in the market, so I go right a bit. Product and technology, we look at the R&D, making sure that the technology they look at is sound, okay? And that it can create more IPs, and that we also look at the life cycle of the product, whether they'll be cannibalized, because we are living in a really fast-moving technology world. So being cannibalized is a very easy thing to happen. And also, we checked on where they are, how far along they are with the way they do things. And for the market, we look at the size, the go-to-market strategy, especially in the area of how are they going to revenue their product. And we typically don't like go-to-market strategy that's project-based. We are okay with using project as a starting point, but we are not okay with project-based or type of business because it will mean that the company will go through a very sinusoidal kind of a revenue stream. You know what I mean? It goes up and it goes down. So we don't quite like that. And we also check the reality of the numbers that they give us. And more importantly, and I talked about that earlier on, is there really a differentiator of what they do? Or is it a me too? And I go back earlier to talk about the IP out there. These are very important for the company because the money is very small. I worked for Hewlett-Packard. I was in the PC business for Hewlett-Packard. Hewlett-Packard can afford to compete in the PC business because our pockets are really deep. Okay, so we can compete on price, we can do anything. But this pocket is really small. It's like miniature next to what Hewlett-Packard has. So we strongly believe in that. And we also look at if the company should have first customer. Not all the companies that come to us have first customer, but for those that have first customers or potentially first customers, we kind of look at it and kind of check and make sure that it's relevant to what they're trying to do and it's going to allow them to scale to the next level of business. In the area of execution, we talk about GMA match. I talked about that earlier on. It's important for us. We look at the team, the people, and making sure that the resources is adequate to keep the company running. We look at the plan, both with respect to the money, how they're going to use it, and whether after they use the money, okay, they will be able to get the next round of funding. We don't kid ourselves with the fact that we believe that our money putting in is just good enough to help the company to kickstart. But the company have to go to the next level of funding to get them to the next level. And very often, in fact, honestly, we make this mistake. Very often when the plan comes in, a revenue plan comes in, we bring it down, kind of do some reality. But very often, especially in the hardware world, it doesn't happen. And the revenue did not happen, get shifted out, and then there's always a little panic for, okay, when are we going to get the next funding because the money runs out. So those are some of the challenges that we see in the companies that we invest in. And also we look at roadblocks. We don't quite like it when you need to have an FDA approval. It's a really expensive affair, okay, for example. But I'm glad we are not quite in the medical side of things. So then for financials, we look at their plan, the progress, and we spend quite a bit of time on cap table. I'll talk about it in a minute. And also we look at burn rate. We actually do spend time with the startups. Sometimes there are some startups that underpay themselves. We'll tell them, be realistic, jack up your pay. Like they're paying themselves $2,000 a month. We really don't think it's realistic. I mean, we are not there to kind of, have them, suffer forever. But we also have situations where startups pay themselves like $10,000, $15,000, whatever that number is, and we do request that they change it. And sometimes if they don't, we actually would think twice about such companies because it reflects on the value of the team. Okay? So that's kind of what we do, what we call a scorecard. And we use this scorecard, the four of us, we would do a scorecard and then we kind of sum up and then decide, okay, this shall be how we're going to, this is the company we're going to invest or not invest. That's what we do. So earlier I talked about cap table, and this is on the right side of it. We do spend a lot of time on the cap table. First, of course, is the valuation. And you're going to ask me, how do I value a company? I'm going to say we pluck numbers from the air. That's really what it is. Well, we do have a reference, like we invested in this company, this is where the stage of the company is, and this is how much we value the company at. And then the next guy that comes along, we use it as a reference, but I will tell you, there's no science to this. I will not be able to give you a formula to say this is why we do what we're doing. Roughly, we think it's about right, okay? And sometimes we may be a bit on the higher side, sometimes we are lower side, and sometimes we have startup that comes to us that have unrealistic valuation. We have halved valuation before. We have also doubled up valuation before because some of the founders are a bit more conservative. So we do those things, kind of do an alignment on things. And we are very, very particular about founder shareholding. It must be more than 50%. And each round, even after we invest, when the next round of investments come in, we will check and try to get them to stay above 50% as much as they can. Of course, when you go down to the later round, they may not be able to hold it. There's a reason why we do that. We strongly believe that to the extent that the founders are not motivated, the company will not succeed. So we spend a lot of time on that. And how we do that is each time when there's a new investment, we encourage the founder to create employee stock option. We are very well known to tell founder, give away your current employee stock option and create new ones. Because it is very important. Motivation of the founders and the management team is extremely important for the success of the company. Our help, our support is not so important on a relative scale, okay? And then we also, so I talked about ESOP, employee stock option. We also have other investors. We try to align with the other investors. We're happy to have other investors alongside with us because we believe that the more investors there are in the company, they will get more help. It's as simple as that. You know, the more people interested in you, the better it is for you, okay? And we also put a board of directors into the thing because I think it's important for us to help them as they move along. And then once we have decided to invest in them, we provide infrastructure support too, space, accounting, legal, and more importantly, we provide a lot of mentors and advisors for the people. We do. We have a whole pool of Hewlett-Packard people who don't need the money but would like to do something. And so, you know, they're a bit younger than me, don't worry, so they are still active and able to help. And they're proven to be very useful for the companies that we have shared them with, okay? And then on an ongoing basis, we have this thing what we call process of management. This, by the way, is adopted by Hewlett-Packard wording, okay? And what we do is we do quarterly board meetings, and we do weekly, bi-weekly if needed, only if needed. And it's not us who decide that they need, but it's the companies who will come to us and say, hey, they need to talk to us, they need to spend time with us, and we do that, okay? And we help them in many, many areas, and I'll just go through this. The various aspects of what it takes to make a hardware company successful, at least the way we view it. So manufacturing, contract manufacturing, like in the case of evaluating materials, sourcing, the manufacturing strategy and processes, design for manufacturing, how they're going to scale. And scaling is very important, both in terms of the cost of the product and also whether they have enough capacity to help them to scale. By the way, even a company like Hewlett-Packard, and you see that in Apple, not having enough products to ship is a very common thing to happen. So those are the things that one have to worry about when you're in hardware. Contract manufacturers, partners, and also we help to review the prototype. We look at supply chain, shipments, trades, help them to do channel strategy, forecasting, funnel management, distribution partners, and I have gone through most of the product development part and also marketing. So essentially, that's what I mean by we're hands-on, okay? I got an indication that I should stop now from Wei Ming. Okay, so we also help with the company with grants and follow-up funding, and that's what we do. I would have to admit to you that we are not good with exit plan, partly because the companies are young, but the only good news for us now is that there's one company that we have that's doing a really good job, and they have 8 term sheets waiting for them in China. So I believe that if we can help the company to be very good in what they're doing, there's a good chance that they're very attractive to other investors that will follow on. With that, I will go to the last slide. This is our encouragement for all of you. Firstly, is that the journey is very, very, very long, okay? Having peaks and valleys are a norm, okay? And just continue to be tenacious, passionate, be committed to what you're doing. You'll get there eventually. We also believe that in the hardware world, you really need to pivot as soon as you find something is not, what it should be. And have the courage to do it. Don't hang on to it, because things change, technology change, market change. Your assessment of the market may be wrong, just change. And in the meanwhile, we as investors, especially for green metals, we are very patient. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chik Pin. That was certainly very insightful. So hardware startups in the room today, if you guys have any needs, you know whose name card to collect later. So I would like to introduce our next speaker, Kelvin Ong, CEO of Focus Tech Venture and partner at TMV Ventures, to share his experiences. Kelvin, please.
Hi everyone. I guess it's always difficult to come on stage after we call them the HP Mafia. In the US, you have the PayPal Mafia, so they are the guys in hardware that has all the experience. I'll try to match the passion of Chip Ping the best of my ability. Okay, so thanks again for inviting me for the Hardware Roundtable. Like Chip Ping, I've been involved in some of the earlier versions of the Roundtable. So just to give a bit of background, we used to be from the precision engineering background. So we used to be we're a local Singapore-born and bred company. We used to be in a company called Six Sun. So our core business was actually in precision engineering, precision metal stamping, machining, electroplating, mainly geared towards the hard disk drive industry. And we had factories at our peak. We had about 3,000 workers in various parts of Southeast Asia and China. And we are lucky to have exited the company to a PE firm in a leveraged buyout. And after which, we took some of the proceeds of the trade sale and started a company called Focus Tech Ventures to do investments, starting with tech startups in the hardware space. So we're also very honored to be part of ESG's, Enterprise Singapore's Accredited Mentor Partner Program. We also recently appointed as one of the technical advisors for NRF's Central Gap Fund program. And we are pretty sector agnostic. When we first started, we do hardware and software. Hardware being a bit more bread and butter because it can really help them connect to the manufacturers. But over time, we became very sector agnostic. We play mainly in the pre-seed and seed stage. So this is a snapshot of some of the companies that we have invested in. When we first started, a lot of them are actually in the consumer hardware space. So I think T-Ware, who is one of my first projects, I think probably Wei Liang is here going to pitch later. So T-Ware is actually a licensed technology from Keio University and NUS. So we actually spoke to the IO office to kind of license out technology. It's basically a haptics technology company that's applied towards wearables. When it first started, it was more towards the autism market. And then they've since moved on to a consumer product called AeraWear. That's more geared towards the, you can call it more of a massaging jacket on the go. And we have a couple of quirky companies. You can see in the middle, the pink color one is a company called Vibes. It's actually the world's first smart vibrator. Juvo is a technology from A-Star. So it's using fiber optics technology to create a smart sensor mat that can very accurately track your vital signs, such as your breathing rate, respiratory rate. You can put it under a mattress of, say, 10 inches thick. PowerDot is a sports tech company. You can see it's a miniaturized electrical muscle simulator. And we have Pebby, which is a co-investment with GMA. It's a robotics toy company. And we do have one B2B one, which is also a licensed technology from NUS called Phenomenology, which essentially is the world's first abdominal simulator that we're going to layer on AR on top of it. Okay, so in terms of how we kind of be helpful to hardware startups, I think the first thing that a lot of people would think about is manufacturing, the biggest risk to most investors coming in as well. So maybe I just want to illustrate, use some of the companies that I mentioned to illustrate the cycle, typical cycle, high level, of how a startup gets from concept to mass production. So to give an example of using T-Ware, so basically, I think most startups that come to us, they already have enough engineering and design chops to kind of clobber something together from day one. So in this case, in T-Ware, they actually took a Uniqlo jacket, and then they hand-sewn the airbags, and they just created a duct tape prototype. We call it a handmade duct tape prototype. So this phase, I kind of call it phase 0, because a lot of the good teams actually can do everything themselves, right? There's enough open source hardware, and they're able to do this themselves. On the design side, pretty straightforward. It could be 3D renderings, etc. And then getting from 0 to 1 is actually a very difficult phase for a lot of startups. In our terms, we call it non-recurring engineering. There's a lot of things to be done, especially for IoT projects. You're not just handling hardware, but also firmware, software. So you need people who are helpful to you to kind of take the works like and looks like prototype together to create what we call engineering prototype. And that's where this example of phenomenology, we actually engaged the help of another group of HP Mafia from MP Online, this company. So they're very experienced, managed to get us one MOQ, which is quite ridiculous for a Malaysian CM that's helping us. And this is a phase that allows us to take that prototype to go out there and showcase to a bunch of medical professionals, etc. And then next phase is what we call EVT, DVT. So this is the phase whereby you need to build a small volume, another valley of death for a lot of startups. So this is a phase that you start to look into not just the, you need to look into moving into production intent materials, production intent components and processes for manufacturing. And that's where you need to look at everything from your mechanical fit, so you have a lot of functional checkboxes that you tick off, all the way to your cosmetic, your color, materials, finishing, looking at gearing up certifications, environmental reliability testing. So a lot of things that most startups won't have all the technical and the knowledge to actually do this themselves. So that's where this example of Pebby, they not only got help in Singapore from a couple of companies like Stuck, which is one of the good ID companies here, and also Promax, CM here, but they also got help from our networks in Taiwan. So we have a nice network in Taiwan called Triple. So we have a network of about 200 to 300 prototypers and CMs. So we actually periodically ship some of the startups over to get help from them. And then we gear up towards mass production. That's a bit easier. So just now you can see that we do a lot of product management earlier, but I think now it's shifting more towards what I call project management. And that's where you need to start to kind of prepare your materials, prepare your manufacturing lines, trying to look at yield optimization. So that is one phase whereby a lot of the CMs live and breathe this space. And that's where I think the CMs will come in as being very helpful. I sneakily took a picture of Joyce of Watson EP. I think I can see her smiling there. So being helpful to one of my drone companies, drone racing company. So I'm trying to illustrate here that there's a lot of, there's no complaints to say that there's not enough people in Singapore who can help them, right? There's a lot of experience residing in Singapore. A lot of the operations of these folks are actually not in Singapore, probably in China. But I think we can tap their experience quite a bit here. If all things fail, of course, we have connections to other parts of the world, from China to Taiwan, Japan. One of my companies, Vibes, I mentioned, they went to this accelerator, I would say the best accelerator in hardware, called Hex. There's a similar one called Bring. Flex is also helpful to startups here in Singapore as well. So no reason to say there's no help rendered there. So I won't go too much into this. This is a Taiwan snapshot of, we do periodic tours, go down there, visit the lines. A lot of the startups may not have even visited factories before, which is eye-opener for them. We do the same in Japan. So we have a relationship with an entity that the Japanese, they call themselves, organize themselves as the super factories. So there's a few hundred SMEs that they can be helpful to startups. So we have a relationship there. So I'm done with manufacturing. So the other big gap, of course, is fundraising, which I think is one of the biggest challenges for high capex kind of play like hardware. So the other part, of course, distribution. So just to share that we're also founding partners of a fund called TMB Ventures. We're also blessed, again, to be part of the Enterprise Singapore's startup equity program as co-investors. We have a very good partner out of Sydney called Aura Capital that actually helps with other instruments like debt financing as well. So this fund, of course, we do not just focus on hardware, but also in areas such as SI and blockchain. So we play pretty much in the Series 8 stage. But we do have connections to a Rolodex of other investors in the ecosystem. So you can see on the left, a lot of them we have co-invested before. They are actually more generalized institutional funds. But of course, in the middle part, we have a lot of very specialized people, very experienced folks like GMA, who can really help the startups, let's say MedTech specific. And then it's interesting that we see more and more corporates as well. I'm happy to also see precision engineering folks like PBA, the likes of Zcom, Armstrong, all coming into the mix. So it's a good way for me to segue into another resource that we have, which is called TMB Accelerator. So TMB Accelerator is also supported by ESG. And what we do here is that we have created a platform to match corporates to startups. So on the corporate side, of course, we do have a lot of different verticals and vertical partners that we work with. So I won't spill the beans too much on this one. This particular one, called SmartPod Challenge, is led this year by NUS, pretty much, and also MPA. We are augmenting their innovation. So you can see that we have more than 20 big and small corporates, mostly big corporates. So industrial IoT companies can get a lot of support through the matching platform. We have done similar things in the region as well. So this is a partnership with a couple of partners in Vietnam. So Singapore is a small market. We have to think about what are the backyard opportunities. We think Vietnam is a big opportunity. So we kind of flew down about 12, 15 companies to Hanoi to pitch to the government agencies, the SIs. A lot of them are actually IoT companies, from smart lighting to precision agriculture. WizSpace is an LP1 company that's invested by GMA as well. And we have more collaborations coming up. I won't go too much into it. There's an upcoming one with GE that we are working with around industrial IoT. So hopefully can announce it to everyone soon. So this is my last slide. I'm just trying to put everything together. This is just one illustration to say that, to kind of help a hardware company, there's a lot of things that we need to do. And by putting resources like funding, like manufacturing resources, super factories in this case, we are looking at co-investment funding with some of their funds. So this is a long-standing partner called Leave a Nest, that they have a drone fund to do drone investments. They have a real tech fund that does deep tech investments. We also get connected periodically to their network of 100 plus Japanese conglomerates in various sectors. So all these are very helpful to startups. Again, this illustrates that we can't do this alone. We need partners. So hopefully with the support, ongoing support of ESG and NUS and everybody else, we can continue to grow the ecosystem and support more hardware startups. Okay, so I'm done. This is my email, calvin@focustechventures.com. If there's anything, then feel free to reach out to me. I'd love to talk to you. If not, enjoy the rest of the conference. Thank you.
Thank you, Kelvin. That was an insightful sharing session. Next up, I would like to introduce GM from FNet to share more on their take on hardware as well as the resources available for hardware startups. GM, please.
Hi, good evening. Just to clarify, my name is GM. I'm not a general manager. Okay. Yeah, my previous two speakers talked about funding for the startups. And before you go to them, you need to have a product ready, right? You have an idea, you need to have something ready to show to them to fund your ideas. That's where Avnet comes in. We help you to convert your ideas into products. So Avnet, if you do not know, Avnet is a global technology distributor. We are a $16 billion enterprise, globally headquartered in Phoenix. And in Asia, we are headquartered in Singapore. We are about $7 billion in Asia. And most of the smartphones you carry or the cars you drive here would have either our products or solutions or services in them. Okay? With that, let me begin. So I'm from the Global Design Solutions team in Avnet. And we do system solutions for customers and help startups to realize their dreams. So typical hardware startups journey. I think most of you have gone through this kind of journey from learning about a product, learning about a technology, learning about an end idea, and then you start with designing the product, and once you're comfortable to make a business out of it, you create a business entity. You register a business and create a business entity, and then you start building a pilot, go to prototype, and then go to mass production. This is a typical journey any hardware startup would go through. I think it's very, very common knowledge. But in between these steps, you go through a lot of challenges. Be it in designing the product or even costing the product. You may have a design, you may have a prototype, but how do you even cost the product? How do you know what price you have to sell? What is the bill of material cost? What does the product cost? You have challenges there. You may have challenges in even building the product. The previous speaker from TNB talked about 0 to 1. But how do you move from 1 to 100, 1 to 1,000, 1 to 10 million? It's going to be very difficult and very challenging. And funding, right? These are some of the challenges you face while converting your ideas into products and then to profits. So let me tell you what Avnet does in helping you from the learning stage right up to the mass production scale, the mass production stage, and also in facing challenges, be it in design, costing, building, or funding your ideas. So Avnet, we bring to you a connected ecosystem of typical, very distinct brands. We have a brand called Hackster. I don't know how many of you are members of Hackster here. Hackster is something like, I'll explain more about Hackster in the next few slides. It's primarily a social network for hardware engineers. It's called Hackster.io. You can go in and take a look later. So we bought this company. It itself was a startup, is a startup run by about 12 engineers and has about 400,000 members, active members in the community. And this way, engineers can congregate, they go in, they learn, share ideas, and then talk about various hardware designs and challenges they face in designing. Element 14 is an online e-commerce platform where you can really go and buy components. You want to buy 1 piece, 10 pieces, 100 pieces, you can go and buy online. It's an e-commerce platform. Premier Fund and Maker Source is where you can actually source for your support. For example, if you're going to start up a company, you need a legal support. You need someone to provide you PCB design services. You need somebody to provide layout services. You can go in and check at makersource.com, or if you're offering these services, you can list your services there, list your products there, and then people can approach you for such services. Dragon Innovation is the most recent company which we acquired. It's a company based out of China and US. This helps you to really scale up your product from few hundreds to few thousand or few 100,000. And Avnet is a traditional Avnet company. We do supply chain services for very large customers, be it one of the smartphones which you're carrying in your pockets or any of the other large-scale manufacturings. We do support a lot of these customers in a very large scale. So let me briefly talk about Hackster before I talk about how do we help you to face these challenges. Hackster, as I said, it's a startup ecosystem run by two founders, Adam and Ben. And they are about 435,000 community members. This is something like Facebook for hardware engineers, okay? And in Asia, it's very active also. In Asia, we have about 120,000 members and growing about 30,000 members every month. So by end of this year, we hope to hit a million figure, including Hackster and Element 14 communities put together. So basically, you can go in, you can see, if you're a startup, you can actually post your projects there, you can share ideas, you can discuss your problems. It's just like Facebook for electronic engineers. Only thing is that we don't share your data with Cambridge Analytica, okay? So, and we also have all the technology players like Amazon, Google, and GE or Samsung. They have their own microsites within Hackster. They talk about their products, and if you have any issues with, let's say, with Amazon Web Services, you can go and discuss with their engineers within the site there. It's a very vibrant platform. Please have a look when you're back home. So how does Hackster help in helping you? So Hackster basically, we get a lot of startups asking us to promote their products in the Hackster site. So we have newsletters going out to about 400,000 members. We can talk about your products. We can talk about your solutions, your ideas in the newsletters. We have social media platforms within the site. We can write blogs for you. So if you have an idea, if you want to propagate your ideas or talk about your products, we can write blogs for you. And we also can produce videos. If you want to do a marketing event, you have a product, you want to reach out globally to various customers or investors, we can create a video for you based on your product, based on your idea, and then put it on the Hackster site. And if you're in a mass production, if you're already in the growth stage, we can create galleries for you. If you have, let's say, 5 or 6 products, we can create a product gallery for you within Hackster so that people can come and take a look at the site. We can run contests for you. So if you're a service provider, we can run, let's say, Intel's or the Texas Instruments, they run contests on your site for startups. And as startups, you can go and participate in these contests. Or if you're a service provider, you can even run contests within the site. And also, we can provide marketing activities within the site for you. Okay? So let's talk about the challenges now. So we have challenges in designing the product. You may have challenges in costing, funding, or even building the product. Let's briefly talk about the challenges you may have in designing and what Avnet can offer to face these challenges. So when you design a product, basically you have challenges like costing. Cost. Most don't have specialized staff even to cost the product. Because you're 2 or 3 or 5 member startup, you may not have enough resources even to find out how much your product is going to cost. In the expertise you might need, you might have a software expertise. You may not have a hardware expertise. You may not have a RF expertise. So you may not have all the expertise you might need to build a complete product, right? And you may not have enough resources to go and acquire these expertise outside. Compliance. You might want to export the product to Europe. There could be compliance issues. You might have certification issues. So who's going to support you on all those areas? And security. You have a very brilliant idea. You don't want the idea to let go to others. You want to protect your IP. At the same time, you want to discuss your issues, discuss your problems with others. So the security becomes very important when you design a product or especially for startups. This is where Avnet comes in, where we offer design services. What we offer is basically turnkey and reference design services. So if you have an idea, if you're at any stage of the design, maybe you have a paper design, you may have a schematic design or a layout, whatever it is, you can come to us. We can help you to go through the design or even design the product for you and complete the design for you. So we can do turnkey and reference designs. We can offer testing. We also offer testing services. You may have a product, but you may not want to invest in test equipment. It's very expensive. Let's say RF test equipment may cost you a few $100,000, or a wireless charging test equipment may cost you a few $100,000. So why do you want to invest in those equipments? You can come to us. We can test the products for you. And we bring in cutting-edge technologies. We provide development kits and boards. You don't need to buy them. We offer them, most of them, we offer them free of cost. And we also have a very wide design partner network. So if we don't have services, or if we don't offer these services, we do have a large design partner network. We can bring in those services to you. And we also offer samples for prototyping. Again, this is a big challenge for startups because they want to go and source 5 or 10 pieces. The distributors may not want to support. But here we are, Avnet, we can definitely support you in small quantity samples and also help you build prototypes. And why is it different? Because we offer customized solutions. Each product is customized. We can customize the solution for you. We have 50 skilled engineers across Asia. I'll show you the next slide where we are located. And we offer cloud services as well, edge to enterprise services. And we also carry a lot of domain knowledge in many areas. So these are some of the design centers we have in Asia, including in Singapore. So Singapore, we offer wireless services. We have specialty in RF, BLE, and Wi-Fi. In Shanghai, we have specialty in automotive industrial applications. And in Taiwan, we have power supply applications. So anything you do in hardware, we have the required expertise. We can support you on the design or even reviewing the design or making the design for you. So as I told before, we do a lot of designs for customers, and some of them are generic reference designs, which is not meant for, which is not customer specific. And if you want to look at those designs, you can just go to Google and search for Avnet APAC reference designs. We have listed about 200 reference designs there. So you don't need to start everything from scratch. You can take it from us. We can provide you the schematic, the Gerber file, and even the source code, everything free of cost. Take it from us, start from there, and then start building your product. So you can save a lot of time to go to market. So designing, we also offer other services. So general advice on current state of design, we offer from Avnet and our sister company, Dragon. Technology guidance and selection of components, electronic component sourcing, high-level design guidance for production, BOM optimization. So any of these services, some are free, some are chargeable. Again, we can sit and discuss across the table of what kind of support you need, where exactly you need support, and then we can offer a solution to you. So let's talk about the challenges you face in costing and building a product. So what kind of services do we offer? So you want a quotation for, let's say, for your bill of material. You can just go to our website, just search for amnet.com/BOM. Just load your bill of material. You can, within a few seconds, you can get the whole bill of material costing there. You can even have alternate suggestions for alternate makes. You can have the data sheets there. You can have you can even buy components out of the website. Okay. So this is free of cost. Manufacturing fixed cost estimation. So there is a lot of fixed costs which might come into picture when you really go into manufacturing. Okay, we can provide you advice there. We can provide you services there. And if you go to Dragon site, there's a trial version called a product. I'll show you a brief demo of Product Planner later, a very small video. So there's a trial version free of cost available. You can take a look at it. It will help you really cost your product, cost estimate your product, and then see what challenges you might face in really, manufacturing. In manufacturing setup and production cost estimation, you want a production quotation for your products, or you want a product fulfillment cost, we can offer all these services to you. When you go to build your product, or building in the sense large volume, so again, we can offer advice and design for manufacturing services at product level. We can even provide packaging design for you. We have third-party resources who can provide packaging design and also provide logistics services for you. Okay. So Dragon, as I mentioned, is a sister company of ours. We acquired them about 8 months ago. And this company is based in China with about 50 engineers in China and about 12 people in San Francisco in US. And what Dragon offers is they provide the fastest, simplest, and safest way to manufacture at scale. So we get a lot of startups or events entities who make in small quantities. They come to us asking us, can you help us to scale to, let's say, few thousand pieces or few 100,000 pieces. That's where Dragon comes in. We can help you. I'll show you what Dragon does. So we deliver manufacturing success in helping companies navigate from prototype to volume production. These are some of the companies which Dragon has helped. Pebble, I think most of you know, Pebble is one of the first smartwatch makers. So it was supported by Dragon initially about a few years ago. Jibo, again, was supported by Dragon. Shark Ninja is an appliance company which is quite popular, again supported by Avnet, by Dragon. So a lot of companies which have come to us in the past at a very early stage of maybe in the prototype stage or a few quantities, and then they come to us. We help them scale up to large volumes. So what solutions does Dragon offer? We offer two kinds of solutions. One is pre-manufacturing and manufacturing solutions. I don't want to go through the entire list, but I'll probably can read it through. I'll probably highlight some of the few critical ones. So Product Planner is actually a SaaS platform. I'll show you a brief video later that helps you provide BOM-centric framework for structured storing of your data. So when you work on a design, there's multiple bill of materials versions and so many part numbers and other things. It's really difficult to really manage all of them. So this can provide you a really nice place to put all your data inside, understand the latest versions, and then get the costing done for all those things. Design for manufacturing. So we can provide you a lot of manufacturing advice and services, 3D modeling, CAD files, prototype services. And we also do a Dragon certified program where I can talk about it later. If you're going for funding to a crowdfunding platform, Dragon certifies your design as Dragon certified, and we can help you to get funding when it's Dragon certified. These are pre-manufacturing solutions. We also offer some manufacturing solutions. For example, you want to get a request for quote from one of the factories in China. So we have about 300 partners in China. As you know, in China, there are different cities focused on different end products and different applications. So we have the right partners. We can get you a quotation for your kind of product from one of the CMs in China. We can get the services agreement done for you with the contract manufacturer in China. Quality plan review. We can even do independent factory audits. So you may not have time or resources to go to a factory in China to audit the factory. We can do it for you sitting in China. and also quality control and shipments out of the CM to your facilities or to your customers worldwide. So just a brief video on what Product Planner is. This is a Dragon SaaS platform. Let me just run it. Maybe it'll explain for itself.
Welcome to Product Planner. I'm Yassine, and I'm here to tell you a bit about what Planner can do and what that means for your project. But first, a quote. Obvious, right? Maybe, but what isn't obvious to many teams is why they run out of money. Usually, it's a combination of underestimating how much you'll have to spend, when you'll have to spend it, and how long it'll take you to get to market. Unless you've built your exact product before, odds are you're missing something. Product Planner is here to help you organize your product data and costs so that you're never blindsided because there was a question you didn't ask or a detail you didn't realize was important. We unlock insights in your data to give you the information you need when you need it. As you explore Planner, short videos like this one will appear to give you a few pro tips on relevant screens as you get started. Getting your BOM in Product Planner is a great step in your manufacturing journey, and we look forward to helping you along the way. Happy building!
So you might want to take a look. You can go to dragoninnovation.com. There's a free 15-day trial version available. You can actually post your bill of material there, see the costing, and see how the platform supports you. It can help you do a cost analysis. We can tell you how much your money is going to last. I think I saw something called a burn rate in one of the slides in the past. We can tell you how much your money is going to last because that's where really startups fail, and the lead times of the components, because one of the component lead time could be 6 months and then the whole supply chain is stuck. So it'll help you navigate all those issues and make your products faster get your products faster to the market. So what Dragon offers is basically something in between a spreadsheet, which is about, where you can manage about a few hundred, sets of products, and ERP tools like SAP or Oracle, where you have really large-scale manufacturing. So this is something that falls in between a spreadsheet and an ERP tool. The last part on funding. So I know the last two speakers talked about funding. We also support you on funding activities. How do we support? We have tied up with Kickstarter.com. I think most of you are familiar with Kickstarter. It's one of the most popular crowdfunding sites. So what Kickstarter does is basically they've partnered with Dragon to actually certify the startups. When it's a Dragon certified startup, which means we go through a lot of analysis before we bring you to Kickstarter. And it's automatic entry into Kickstarter for crowdfunding. Because what Kickstarter realized was that in the past, many of the startups which post for crowdfunding in Kickstarter failed to acquire the required funding because they were not up to the mark. So Dragon does the pre-qualification or a certification, so to speak, before we actually get you to Kickstarter.com. So we have a formal program in place called Hardware Studio Program. So basically, if you're a hardware startup, this is primarily only for hardware startups. If you're a hardware startup, and if you have 6 to 8 months before your launch of the product for the campaign, and if your POC at least ready, and you're aware of all the challenges you might face in getting your product to the market, that's where we really come in. We have about 100 applications in the last 6 months. We have funded about 40 of them, or rather we have got 40 of them onto the Kickstarter platform in the last 6 months' time. Okay, so please take a look at hardwarestudio.com. Okay, so Avnet, we can help you in supporting right from the design stage, be it costing, funding, or even building your product. So my contacts, my email ID is there. You can contact me anytime, or one of our office employees in Singapore. Or visit our website. We have quite a few case studies listed on the website of how we support companies and especially startups to scale up from 0 to a few 100,000. Thank you.
Thank you, GM, as well as all the speakers so far. It has certainly been insightful to learn from the experts themselves on how we can collaborate on hardware. Next up, we'll be inviting 4 hardware startups to pitch their products and business plans. The pitching session will consist of a 10-minute pitch and 5 minutes Q&A. The startups in the lineup includes technology across wireless power transfer, smart haptic wearables, motion tracking and gate analysis, and drone warehousing.
Without further ado, may I invite the first speaker, Ashish, founder of TransferFi, on stage, please. So TransferFi is a startup specializing in wireless power transfer. Ashish, please.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Ashish, and I'm working with Reza, my co-founder, on TransferFi. We are creating the world's first long-range, safe, and efficient wireless power network. Essentially, we are untethering the world from any need for wiring in the future. Now, power is one of the most important discoveries of mankind. It's been the backbone for every revolution. It started off with steam engines, where we were powering up these massive machines using steam power. Then moved on to electricity distribution with AC and DC, inverter control optimization. And now, with the fourth industrial revolution, we are looking at a new way to distribute power. In the fourth industrial revolution, we're looking at cyber-physical systems, industrial autonomy, basically massive amounts of sensor deployments, huge amounts of wiring infrastructure, which is going to be a huge problem at some point in time. Now, ever since power was discovered, one thing has remained the same, and that's wires. Wires mean 1.3 billion people do not have access to power. Wires mean that offshore renewables remain an economic impossibility. Wires mean that our smart nation will be covered in cable spaghetti. Now, people have been working on wireless power transfer for a very long time. In fact, since the 19th century. You probably remember this. This is the Tesla Tower. The aim was to be able to distribute power wirelessly, long range, using wireless power transfer to everyone. But that didn't really happen. Currently, though, we are using things like magnetic resonance and inductive coupling. It's used for your smartphones, AGVs, electric vehicles, even drones right now. So take your latest smartphone, for example. You can actually put it against this wireless charging dock. And it charges pretty efficiently and safely. But as you remove it from the dock, it stops charging. So it's limited to a very short distance, which is really tough to use. Then you have laser beams, which solve that long distance issues because they travel extremely far. But it's really hard to deploy. Laser beams require focusing, alignment, and also some sort of vision. So if you block the view of a laser beam, it just stops the transmission. Also, laser beams are extremely hazardous. Imagine a 1,000-watt laser. It will burn a hole right through you. There's radio frequencies, which is probably the most versatile of the lot. It's been developed over the years with communication technologies, with satellites, smartphones, military uses. So this is a very mature technology, and it's great for communication. So I can go wherever I want. Using my smartphone, I can get coverage, which is fantastic. But for wireless power transfer, it is extremely inefficient. As we move away from the source, we lose a lot of power. There's a lot of electromagnetic waves that's been wasted. So take your pick. Short range, unsafe, or inefficient power usage. Well, at TransferFi, we are creating the world's first long-range, safe, and efficient wireless power network. We're doing this by creating new beamforming and signal optimization technology to focus radio frequency beams towards target devices, not wasting any electromagnetic waves whatsoever or any energy. We're also, on top of that, creating a whole new waveform modulation systems to carry power at a whole new efficiency level. So this results in wireless power transfer that's long range, safe, and efficient. In fact, 100 times more efficient than whatever else is out there right now. We actually have a demo that's working today, powering up devices at 18 meters. Humidity, temperature, pressure, vibration. This is the first of its kind in the world. We're going to hit 100 meters by 2018, or by the end of 2018. In fact, this would be perfect for industrial IoT applications. But we're not going to stop there. We'll be looking to high power systems in 2020, focusing on offshore renewables and space-based technology. Now, industrial IoT is a perfect proving ground for our technology, mainly because an average IoT deployment consists of 60% of the budget wasted in cabling and installation. And a lot more is wasted in the time for installation. In fact, about an hour worth in a manufacturing company is almost $2 million. So we can save a huge chunk of that. Now, a basic Transify WPN, which is a wireless power network system, consists of a transmitter and a receiver. These receivers can be spread out to any location and retrofittable to any sensor out there, no matter what brand or what age. So it's a truly retrofittable system that allows for a non-invasive sensor deployment, reducing deployment time by 80%, reducing wiring infrastructure, and reducing the whole aspect of complexity of wiring. So this can save a huge amount of money for manufacturing companies and industries as well. And so it can't be ignored. We have multiple applications that we're working on right now, from construction, gas pressure monitoring systems, vibration analysis for precision machines. And we also have a paid POC with a very large hardware gaming company to power up multiple accessories. We are working with partners in technology side of things over here to be able to release our products at a much faster rate. We're also working with industrial automation companies to build our systems level sales pipeline. At the same time, we also have end customers within manufacturing, startups, and also universities that are interested in our technology. Now, to develop this, we need a very strong team. Now, Dr. Reza, he actually graduated, or he finished his PhD from National University of Singapore. He focused a lot of his postdoc career in optimization of wireless power transfer systems. I spent most of my time in industry, in National Instruments, actually 8 years in National Instruments, focusing on embedded systems, FPGAs, and industrial IoT. And our advisor, Dr. Chung Ray, is the #1 in the world when it comes to citations in wireless power transfer optimization systems. So this is a perfect team to be able to launch a system that's revolutionary. Now, our vision in Transify is to create access to power from anywhere, anytime, to anyone. So in the future, wiring infrastructure for countries, cabling for building, grid infrastructure, and also offshore renewables will all go through Transify's technology. So essentially, we'll be creating a whole new revolution in the way we distribute power. Thank you very much. That's all I have.
Thank you, Ashish. Any questions from the audience, please?
Sure.
Oh, we have one there.
So how active our power and utility companies are in the idea? I can't name the companies that we're working with, but vary. So basically, the power companies are engaged in a few ways. One is to create a whole new standard for power transfer. Two is because they actually have multiple monitoring sensors out there for gas pressure. That's why I put gas pressure there as one of the companies we're working with. And power monitoring systems as well. So there's a bunch of sensors that are actually implemented out there for utility control. So they need wireless power to be able to power these sensors up. And the last part for this utility companies is to look into renewables, where there's two aspects in which they were looking into with us. That's rooftop solar, being able to transfer power from one rooftop to another rooftop. The other one is mini wind farms. So current wind farm infrastructure right now, about 30–40% of the cost goes into wiring. So the way to do that is to be able to improve the generation side as much as possible to offset that cost. But with wireless power transfer, we're reducing a huge amount of that cost, essentially allowing for smaller deployments of wind farms that's distributed.
Sorry, let me.
So just now you mentioned 25 meters, right? What is the power transfer efficiency, and also is it the same distance indoors?
What is the power efficiency and
the transfer distance indoors?
Okay, so the 25 meters we're looking at would be indoors, but efficiency point of view, it depends on how many sensors you're using and how many devices that's out there. So with 800 sensors, we can hit an efficiency level of 35%, which is uncalled for. Right now, the best you can find is 0.5% at 1 meter. And then when it comes to, that's low power, which is safe and FCC regulated. High power systems is a different talk. So we will be looking into much bigger level of antennas, and that can reach up to 60 to 70% efficiency.
Can you talk a little bit about the competitive landscape for your technology, and of your technology, how much of that is unique IP that is patentable?
Sure. So in wireless power transfer, there's a lot of different sort of approaches to it. The biggest companies that's out there are focusing more on the receiving side. So you can just name some of the list: Energous, PowerCast, Nikola Labs, OSHA. A lot of them have spent a lot of time developing these chipsets that can convert radio frequencies to DC power, which is pretty much the core of one part of the wireless power transfer realm. What we are actually focusing on, how we are changing the whole game, is focusing on the transmission side. So we are creating a whole new realm of transmitters that are able to beamform in a much higher focus levels, and a whole new waveform optimization system that's nothing to do with data at all. It's a whole new modulation that's IP'd. So the beamforming, the optimization algorithm for powering up multiple sensors, scheduling systems, the modulation of the signal itself is all patented under Transify. Right? There's a bunch of other patents that we can talk about as well. So everything we do essentially is patentable, almost.
So in a sensor network, do you envision every sensor having its own individual receiver, or will there be one receiver for a network of sensors, but then you end up with wiring to connect them all again?
Yeah, so right now the way we vision it is 3 sensors per receiver. So there's 2 modules, one module for 2 sensors per receiver, another one for 3 sensors per receiver. But this is actually something that we are constantly changing and defining based on our deployment strategies. So as we deploy further and understand installation a bit better, we most likely will be changing that. But at the moment, that's a vision.
All right, so we have time for one more question. Any takers? All right, so next up we have T-Wear, a smart therapeutic wearable which also serves as a wearable for heart therapy. May I invite Wei Liang, the CEO and co-founder of T-Wear, on the stage to share about his product, please. Wei Liang, are you ready for this? All right, the stage is yours. All right, let's give him a round of applause.
Okay, hi everyone. Good evening. My name is Wei Liang, and I'm the CEO and co-founder of T-Wear. So we are a company that actually developed smart therapeutic wearables for a couple of years now. Okay, so I believe this is something that you guys can relate to. Touch is actually coming, and you could see or observe how babies actually stop crying when they are hugged or swaddled. So using this concept of touch, we decide to use it to help people who are suffering from stress and anxiety. Individuals who range from office workers who are highly stressed, employees, all the way to patients who are suffering from what we call anxiety disorders, right? So what we're offering is a wearable technology that provides an immediate, discrete, but yet non-invasive kind of relief, so that it still allows them to perform well at their daily tasks, and they are not impeded by their stress or anxiety. So the kind of market that we are looking at right now is stress at the workplace itself. And in today's global workforce, where we have 3.2 billion people, 38% of them are actually stressed. And yet 90% of them have no access to workplace and wellness or services. And this is especially true for Asia-Pacific region, right? It's much more developed in the US, where they have more of this wellness in place. So we are looking at a huge opportunity for a smart workplace wearable. While at the other end of the spectrum, we are looking at globally, 1/13 people in the world actually suffer from anxiety disorder, right? And this can range from generalized anxiety disorder, some form of social anxiety disorders, or phobias, right? And just in US alone, there's only about 36.9% of the sufferers actually seek for treatment. So meaning another 2/3 are not served. So again, there's a huge space in this healthcare side of things where there's a need for a smart anxiety wearable. So what we are offering is, there are two parts to it. There's a hardware part and there's a software part. So on the hardware part, we are providing IoT touch wearables that provide immediate calm, that is non-invasive and discrete, and is clinically proven to help to stabilize cortisol levels. Well, on the digital health side of things, we are looking to track stress, anxiety, and wellness, and based on the data that is collected, we could provide a predictive touch to help them to calm. So up to date, we have launched 2 products. So we started with the product on the right, which is a T-jacket, and which is actually a hard jacket that calms anxiety. So we started first in the autism space. If you have seen kids with autism, when they get anxious, some of them will do things like rocking their bodies, or they kind of like get hyperactive. Some even hurt themselves. And when you apply pressure on their body, they actually calm down. So that's the product. We designed a hard jacket that provides that hug remotely. And we have sold about 800 plus, 700 plus jackets to date. And recently we have launched another product that is more meant for the mass market. It's called EraWear. We have launched it on Kickstarter. It's actually a smart vest that is meant for you and me to help to relieve our really stressed or tense up muscles. So for EraWear itself, we managed to launch on Kickstarter. And we have exceeded our funding target by 200%. And we have shipped end of last year. So we have shipped to all our backers, and we are setting up the production line. Is actually all set up for our next batch. So this is one of the comments from one of our backers, where he commented that it really worked wonders on his notoid muscles. I believe this is something that all of us suffer. You get really stiff shoulders and stiff back after sitting for 8 to 10 hours, because that's the way work is for us, right? So this is something that is really useful for them. So how we intend to work the channels or our go-to-market strategy for EraWear, we intend to work closely with corporate HRs, big companies with good welfare like Google, Facebook, where they could introduce EraWear as part of a corporate wellness program. So we are in talks with a physiotherapist as well to see how we could introduce the product together with their services as a kind of holistic wellness program. Secondly, of course, there are the sports retailers that we can work with, like your Decathlon or your Royal Sporting House. And lastly, of course, insurance companies. So this is this is perhaps a screenshot of a kind of digital wellness that we would like to build and to offer to our corporates, right? So based on the corporate employees, where they, after using EraWear for perhaps a few months, the organization themselves will be able to look at this matrix and understand out of all their staff, how many of them are in good health. So you could see that if the greens are those in good posture, perhaps those in red are in really bad posture where they have this forward head kind of posture. So you get insights, right? And from these insights, we could customize a wellness strategy for the corporate itself. Okay, so for T-Jacket itself, we are looking to launch version 2. Previously, we had a version 1, so this is a much lighter and cooler version that we are hoping to launch into the market. And from previous experience, T-Jacket has been used for widely already in Singapore, in mines, APSN, AWA, but we are looking to expand to more on the application of anxiety disorders. So looking to work closely with hospitals to continue trials on anxiety disorders, to see how we are working with NUH to see how we could start a pilot trial on how T-Jacket could help on patients with dementia. So all in all, there's really high barrier of entry for our products, where we have the first mover advantage based on the crowdfunding that we have done. It's clinically proven. We have done the trial with a US organization where we have proved to help stress disorders. And lastly, we believe that the stress and therapeutic touch data that we'll collect will be a high barrier of entry as well. Yeah, so right now we are at a stage where we are looking for funds to produce the next batch of EraWare, so that we could validate our sales channel, where we would like to work with corporates like Google, and also to start the pilots. And EraWare, T-Ware's technology is not just for corporate wellness, stress and anxiety, and not just for autism or ADHD. We are also looking at how we could expand further, whether it's for your tech-snack syndrome, or kind of like posture support, or things like DVT or sleep disorders. So we believe there's a huge potential of the technology itself. So, the end game that we are looking at is we are looking at acquisition, perhaps by a healthcare and wellness company like OSIM, Omron, or Siemens, and also or an IPO, right? So this is a brief look at the team itself. We have myself. I did my master's in haptics technology. So we have Sep Yang, who has been always quite an expert in IoT healthcare field. Professor Kenneth Poon is an autism expert advisor that we have. And we also have Prof. Tan, who is an advisor to the company itself. So I would say that both products are proven and ready. And for T-Jacket, it's clinically proven. And we are looking at a huge market of stress our employees, and the anxiety disorders healthcare market that we believe that there's a really I would say a huge space for the technology to go into. So that's all I have. Thank you very much for listening to me, and if you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer them.
Thank you, Wei Liang. So any questions from the floor?
Hi, thank you. Could you explain how the jacket works, or what the mechanism or the technology in it is?
Yeah, okay. So I kind of missed that. Sorry. Yeah. So I'm actually wearing the EraWare jacket. So it works by an app, so you can connect to an app, or it works by itself. So just press and hold, and inside are actually airbags that are embedded within the vest itself. So the pump unit and electronics is just this unit. So everything is compact, and with one touch of the button, you will actually start the massage. So we have it as a kind of default massage program. Save it into the jacket itself. But if you want finer refinements, like you want to change the intensity, you want to change the massage programs, things like that, you want to customize it, we have it on the app itself. Yeah.
Questions from the floor?
I was wondering, what's the battery life like for the jacket? I'm assuming it's battery powered.
Yeah, so we are using a LiPo battery. So if you do a full massage continuously, you can massage yourself for 3 hours. Yeah, but nobody massage themselves for 3 hours, I think. yeah, I did it for 2 hours at most, yeah.
So I have two questions. First question, what are you retailing at currently for your air jacket? Because clearly Edwin needs a massage for 3 hours.
Yeah, so we are retailing this at US about $249. So that's about 320 Sing. Yeah.
And then my second question is, you're in front of an audience of investors, of manufacturers. What would your ask be given your current status of your product and your company? Would it be raising money? Do you need people to do distribution? It might be helpful to raise that to the audience.
Yeah, I think it's very clear. We are looking for two things. One is the funding. So we are looking at fundraising right now. So we are looking at a bridging round, so I'll be happy to discuss a bit more on that later. The second thing is definitely I'm looking at sales channels where we really want to cooperate with the big guys, people who could see value of introducing it into perhaps their companies, right, as part of the corporate wellness programs. I think that is, well, that's the only way for us as a startup to survive, I guess. Yeah.
Hi, could you tell me a little bit about what was the feedback that you got, particularly for the massage jacket that you had, right? And I'm guessing with the feedback you would have thought of how you're going to improve your product. I actually tried your product and I want to see how is it going to get better than where it is today. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, okay. So some of the good feedback is that I've seen how there's this guy who he kind of like have a back pain problem, right? So he works out. So the next day when he goes to office, he gets really sore muscles, right? So this is something that is always on his chair. He could put it up and wear it. After wearing it, it helps him to soften or relax his muscles and allows him to crack his back. I think that's I've been getting quite a bit of feedback on validation on that, right? I think some of the things that we should really improve on is I think in terms of some of the manufacturing quality control issues as well, that we let it slip when we are doing the manufacturing process. Things like charging, maybe there's some issues that definitely with the next production we could sort that out. I think in terms of aesthetics, ladies find it to be really boring or even ugly. Yeah. Well, I'll try my best to get a lady on board. Yeah. I think that are some of the key things, and how to make it even more discreet as well. I think because as it massage, there are some parts where it gets maybe a bit bulky, especially when it's loose. But on really well-built guys, people who go to the gym, well, it sticks to their frame and it kind of makes their muscles like even better, right? Yeah. So those are some of the things that we are working on. A lot of things are more product-based, but in terms of the value that it delivers to the user, I think it's definitely value there. Yeah.
Okay, in the interest of time, I think let's give a round of applause for Wei Liang. Thank you. And please feel free to engage the startups who were pitching earlier today during the networking session as well. So next up, we would like to invite Herspace, a startup specializing in tracking precise motion gestures. The technology is currently applied for patient fall prevention in hospitals. May I invite Bernard, co-founder of Herspace, please?
Thank you and good afternoon. I'm Bernard. So we are into motion analytics, and actually one of the things that we look out for is actually insightful moments. And what do I mean by that? A fall. That is the insights that we are trying to develop for the last 2 years. If you look at the fall, it's actually occur anytime, anywhere, whether you are in hospital, any wards, you're suffering from cancer, you're suffering from kidney problems, you're still susceptible to fall. Or even in nursing home and home. So we actually look at fall as actually a disease. So is it preventable? Is it predictable? And we hope to solve this problem. I think most of us will actually go through these 3 stages of care, if not some of the stages, in hospital, in a nursing home, or even living independently at home. If you look at the in-hospital fall itself, these are the statistics that we collected. There's around a million falls a year, and it's around $14,000 per fall, and it translates to around 1.14 billion of cost avoidance. This is the opportunity cost that we can prevent, or we can predict to prevent. In a nursing home, or at home, in the worldwide market, there's around 37 million falls. And these 37 million falls, more than 500,000 of them actually resulted in death. So it's getting very popular in the United States, whereby people are buying the medical alert systems. These are like your panic button at home, or once you press the panic button, somebody will call you and ask you for assistance. It's very popular in the United States. This market alone is going to be around 26 billion. That means people are buying such systems to actually help themselves, especially in the US, a lot of independent living. And if you look at the pictures on your right, the tall building, it's actually a very upmarket building for old folks to stay in independently with minimal medical services, just for people to live independently. There's a lot of such buildings in Singapore. They are nursing home. Looks exactly like that. I visited a few of them, and it's really, really scary as a healthcare provider, as a nurse helping the patients there, because it's very difficult to know when they fall. And you definitely need systems to help you. So if you look at the current technology for in-hospital, I think a lot of systems is performing well, especially the video analytics, but it's very expensive. You just look at your bed. And beyond the bed, there's no way to find out what is your conditions. Whereas for us, we are actually able to provide anytime, anywhere within the hospital ward or within the compound of the hospital. The next market, what we call the 4 predictive markets, that you go into the rehab lab or you go to some special lab to measure how are you doing. Are you healthy, or are you going to fall soon? There's a lot of such products out there that actually so-called predict whether are you falling. And most of these are in the lab conditions. That means you need to travel somewhere, whether in Singapore or in the US or in Australia, you need to travel to the lab. Whereas ours, we can actually wear it anytime, anywhere. It keep calculating, it keep doing measurements for you behind the scenes and see how are you doing, are you susceptible to fall. Again, that's our difference, anytime, anywhere. And lastly, for the panic button that we talk about, a lot of the panic button actually equipped with a fall detector. That means you wear it on your neck like this. There's a button as well as sensors inside. But all these sensors, it just tells you fall or not. Whereas ours, we try to also detect the activities. How many times are you getting active or are you getting less active? And from there, we predict, again, doing a prediction of whether are you susceptible to fall. So again, that's our difference. So regarding our technology, basically our core technology is quite a lot of physics and science. And the other thing is the way we model our biomechanics. So we actually wear a single sensor, and we can actually tell 2 joints. For example, if I wear it on your wrist, I can actually tell what is the elbow doing. Likewise, if you wear it on your ankle, we can tell what is your knee doing. The reason is because you need this sort of contextualization to know what is the person doing, rather than just measuring something in free space, like some of the activity tracker is doing. And of course, our IoT, everything, we link it back to IoT for analytics and display. And we are quite happy that we have got around 5,000 hours of validation. Most of it are in the real life, in the real life scenario. So this is one of our first product. It's currently trialing in one of the hospitals in Singapore. It's patient care assistance system. It's actually we try to be a virtual nurse, a 24/7 nurture nurse sitting beside you, watching you to see what are you doing. Are you getting out of bed and exposing yourself to a fall risk condition? Okay, this is simulated in a hospital simulator. And you see the patient is actually wearing on the knee.
Bed number 1.
The nurse will actually attend to you once they hear the alarm. And the system actually lock in all these things. Actually, all these so-called gestures or the classification of actions that you have done, and try to intervene in time. And if you hear closely, the alarm comes along with a text-to-speech. That means you can call your name if you want to. You can call your name, Mr. So-and-so, good morning, are you getting up? Why are you getting up so soon? To try to slow you down from your action of getting out of bed. So we are able to garner four very good points during our trial. The first one is actually the system locked down so much information. We even locked down times they get out of bed. And one of the nurses actually mentioned that, hey, from the system, I can actually tell consistently this patient is getting out of bed at 2 a.m. in the morning. So she actually preempt. Around that time, she's stationed around this patient because every day without fail, based on the system, she gets out at 2 a.m. So this is the level of care that the nurse can actually pre-plan and look at the level of care as well as their resources. Next, you see the ring fence of the detection zone. We can detect things on the bed, at the edge of the bed, or even when they walk away. So that is the kind of detection zone that we have developed. And of course, the very simple user interface. There's not cluttered at all. And we got a very low error of the users using it because they hardly touch the controls. And lastly, we have another interesting case whereby we use a system to actually play back what happened to a patient that actually had an event in the toilet and nobody knows what happened. So we are able to recreate how bad she fall and whether is she assisted before she was left inside the toilet for shower. So again, all these are actually very good information for the hospital to know. Okay, so whatever the algorithm and the system is doing is a bit abstract, so I hope to have some illustration and visualization here. Our colleague is actually walking, and blue and green, yellow lines are actually add-on illustration. So the system actually keep on detecting. The heel strike the floor, the toe left the ground, and it's swinging in the air, and finally the leg landed on the ground. All the events are actually computed by the algorithm. Just for illustration's sake, the yellow line just followed through, but the algorithm is actually identifying all these points. And at each point, are you stepping on the floor correctly? Are you pronating your leg too much? Are you pronating it not enough? Are you swinging your leg sideways? All these things are continuously calculated. Likewise, on bed, the one you saw when the alarm sounded, when the patient tried to get out of bed, all these things are happening in the background. Similarly, we use this for rehab and sports. Using the same technology, depends on where you place the sensor, we can actually calculate and see what kind of push-up, sit-up, or doing some exercises. We not only look at the counting, we also look at the quality of the exercises using the same methodology. So for example, we just did a trick on the system to see whether can it detect. On the left is a fake push-up. It's just pushing in the air. And on the right is a real push-up, and you see that the system actually detected a different units of displacement. That means one travel more than the others. That's how we detect. And we try to be a bit more adventurous and do a parkour. And the height of the student that jump up, all these are calculated by the system, as well as the fall. That's our bread and butter. You saw the great displacement is around 1.6 meters of displacement on the floor. That signifies just on the flat plane basis. So lately, we talked to some nursing home, and they told me, hey, your devices need to be worn by the patient for 2 days or 3 days, that's fine. But for a resident in nursing home or even at home for independent living elderly, there's no way they can use it for so long. So we took up this challenge and we actually put it as a wear-on. That means you put the devices on your clothes and then you wear the clothes. Or you put the devices in your shoe, embed it into a shoe, and wear it as a shoe. So essentially you're not wearing any wearables. So that is a psyche we want to give it to the people that uses it. And so far we have developed this thing, and we are trying to push it to a nursing home. So the vision right now is actually to have an ecosystem, maybe in the hospital, using our PCAS, which is more clinical and much faster response. And the next thing is actually more for elderly care, use it in a nursing home, use at home. And it's actually a step down. It's a step down in terms of response time and so on. And also you need the smart wear, what we call the wear-on sensors to make it work, as well as other things. So we think that in future, the whole ecosystem will be having many sensors, but not wearable, but wear-on or situated around your living room or in a nursing home. The first responder can be Alexa. When your Alexa detects something, can they speak back to you? Can they ask you how you are? Currently, we are using call center, yes, but as the technology progresses, can it be automated? And of course, relate all these things to the traditional medical staff in the hospital or in some clinics to respond to you, ultimately. So this is our vision, to have a full management system and ecosystem throughout how an elderly age, whether in hospital, in nursing home, or at home. And thank you. Any questions?
Thank you, Bernard, for the interesting sharing. So any questions from the audience, please?
Hi, Bernard, I have a question. Sorry, pardon the voice. How do you compare against some of the competitors that are already out there, whether from the professional sports side or from the form monitoring side? I mean, I know of companies that have sensors, wear-ons, where they can do some of the things that you're currently doing, for example, in athletics training or in football. So how do you compare against them?
For example, soccer is actually, we are going to see the World Cup soon, and I think a lot of players are actually wearing sensors right now for locational service as well as for their fatigue, as well as recovery. That one actually looks at more on performance, human performance. They do a lot of search, momentum slowdown, to look at whether their body is fatigued or not. So the science and the physics behind it is actually quite different. Whereas ours is looking at very fine movement of a body or on the limbs to signify what are they doing at that point in time. Not so much on performance. Performance as in the soccer again, how much energy they spent, how much energy they used.
So do we have any more questions from the floor? Oh, yes.
Is the technology in your sensors proprietary, or is it off the shelf and you've kind of combined it to create something?
It's totally developed from scratch. It's developed from scratch, and there's no licensing, nothing, and it's developed by ourselves.
What is the wireless technology used?
Sorry, what do you mean by wireless?
Is it BLE or Wi-Fi or?
Currently, we are using BLE. From the device to the gateways, it's purely BLE.
So you need a gateway?
Yes.
Okay.
Because we expect to have multiple sensors in a ward, for example.
All right, so no more questions. Thank you, Bernard.
Thank you.
Last but not least, we have Aero Lion. Thank you all. We have come to the end of the Hardware Roundtable. So hope you have a fruitful and useful session. It's heartening to see so many brave startups come up on stage to share their journey, and so many mentors that are here to share their advice. We'll be looking forward to see more local hardware startups join us in this exciting journey. Thank you.